Welcome, welcome. Leslie, it's great to have you here, Nonprofit Live. Welcome.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, well, I absolutely, after one of our recent conversations, I knew we had to get you on the show and we had to get talking to folks because things have been a little wild out there. There's so much going on and so much busyness, right?
Yes.
So welcome to Nonprofit Live. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to have a nice and relaxed conversation with Leslie Benedetto of Be Well World, Be Well Now. And, talking about this, the power of the power steps, right? Power steps in leadership to stay clear and calm and confident when sometimes it feels like things are a little crazy around us. The chaos is real.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. The chaos is always real. That's for sure.
The chaos is still coming.
But we can, you can navigate it and begin to accept that it's always going, in some way, it's going to be there.
It's going to be there. The changes are going to be there.
Yeah.
And our job as leaders really is to navigate that change. Mm-hmm. And Leslie, I love your leadership. And I think, we got to back up here a little bit. We're going to dig into kind of these tools and tips that you use to help your clients and help yourself ground into moving forward, even among the chaos, right? So, but let's take a step back because we've been in each other's universe for a little while now, right? We've been friends and causing good trouble together for a minute.
Yes.
And I love watching your leadership. I'm part of your fitness community at Be Well. I love the leadership there. And I think what draws me to you the most, Leslie, is your commitment, your community-based approach to helping create change.
Yeah. And I think that's just because I have like a very visceral need for community. It's just I like to be a part of a community. I need to be surrounded by community, like-minded people. So I think that's kind of what I create.
Intuitively create.
I think so. Yeah. It's just part of my makeup, my personality to do that.
Well, let's back up and talk about your journey a bit because your business and the business that you partner with Kate Koski on at Be Well is so community-based. And what you've provided this amazing space for women mostly,
right,
for people to come together to explore and to improve their wellness through their fitness journey. And you really ground into community as being the basis for that journey. And I find that so interesting because it's not a business model to you. It's absolutely a community-based model to you guys. In fact, to your chagrin. It's a community-based model because in your experience, you've let me know before that that's where you see people thrive, where they can really find their tribe and really relish in the power steps that lead to a successful journey, not just focus on the results that you see in more traditional gyms. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and why you got started in this space?
It's funny just talking right now, and something that when I started, in 1995 with Vintage in East Liberty, senior services in aging in the senior center. And you know what? It was about community building. And that
your nonprofit background. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I started, in aging services and actually in Lawrence County before that. And bringing fitness really into spaces where it wasn't, that was kind of cutting edge in 93, 94. That was that big push for bringing strength training and whatnot into the senior community. And, I always said, especially when I was in Newcastle, I was not very popular at first because they lost a bingo afternoon for exercise.
For fitness?
And that's very serious in that community. But I would say if I can get an 84-year-old in Newcastle to exercise, I can get anyone to exercise.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, then I went to Vintage in Pittsburgh and then another organization. But it was, community based and nonprofit. That's always been kind of my makeup, where I feel I fit in.
That's kind of the where things come together for you. And that's so much of what I think attracts us. So I'm in your fitness community. Mm-hmm. You are a client of the Magnify Your Mission program, right, as you wanted to take your community online through the Be Well Now program. Can you talk a little bit about your unique approach to helping people achieve their fitness goals? Because I mean, that's like the nonprofit journey, right? Our own fitness and health is an interesting.
I started Be Well Nation 13 and a half years ago. And I was a year out of rehab, so I was working on sobriety. I had 3 small kids, and I wanted to really just have a space where I could teach a few classes a week. But a part of my belief, I have a master's in exercise science, is really evidence-based fitness, and not and avoiding diet culture and a lot of that negative dieting and things that just really aren't based on much truth. It's negative. It's body shaming. I didn't want that. I didn't want to teach in an environment like that. Been there, done that. And I just, that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I just created my own space. And I just started with a couple days a week teaching some yoga, and then it went on and expanded from there, but always with ever since I started fitness, I was always looking around to see who wasn't in the room. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that still are not in the room. And that's who I wanted. I'm like, what? We're missing a lot of people. So I created a space that, first of all, that I wanted to be in, that was positive and healthy mentally, emotionally, as well as physically. And then I wanted it to be a space where people who normally didn't think they fit, because if you look at a lot of, even now, marketing for fitness, well, you're seeing, I see it all the time. It's like, it's all the beautiful people with the perfect biceps. And then so if you, on the outside, looking at that and you're like, well, where is the space there for me? That doesn't look like it would, that's where I would belong. Mm-hmm. So that's, and I have to say, when I started Be Well, I was, on my own journey. I was about 40 pounds overweight, you name it. Mm-hmm. But I knew that couldn't stop me. Like, I couldn't wait until, well, I need to lose this weight or do this. It was kind of the process. And that is what created, also the space to be like, hey, this space is for the people who don't think that most fitness spaces really aren't welcoming to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the vibe you have of your studio and what you're building online as well, as you're taking your community online. I'm glad we've got some folks here joining us. Rachel, hey. We are checking out StreamYard today. So if you're joining, click the button that says streamyard.com/Facebook in the comments. Good to see you. Leslie is also here. Awesome. We can see your name if you click that button. So Leslie, yeah, that is amazing. So it's this passion for community building you bring to the fitness world, and you have a really amazing way of making it approachable and accessible wherever people are. And I love what you said, you weren't going to wait till you were quote unquote ready to be the leader of the studio. You were going to bring your community along with you on your fitness journey.
Right. And to show that being, what would be considered overweight or whatnot doesn't mean that you don't, that I didn't have the fitness skills or, other skills. It just meant I was 40 pounds overweight. And that was a big eye opener too, because there's a lot of body positivity out there now that wasn't around 13 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And I'll tell you what, people would walk in and see me and go, and I'd be like, I'm going to wipe the floor with you. Or they'd see my age too, which think, oh, well, I'm younger. And it kind of blew out, kind of also disrupted some of those preconceptions we have about what fitness looks like.
Yeah, well, I know disruption's a really important part of your brand, not just in fitness, but so
my tattoo.
Your tattoo, disrupt, right? A good reminder that that's our purpose, and that notion of getting started before you're ever going to feel ready. It's the time is now, right?
I'd still be waiting, and you know what? I'd still probably be 40 pounds overweight.
Right.
Waiting for that, magic plan, process, something
to get going.
Yeah.
So you came into my world saying, I want to talk about the Magnify Your Mission program and how it can help your community supercharge. What made you, where were you when you decided to start the program with me? Because we worked together a few months back now.
Yeah.
For a few months.
Starting to really look at how to have an online presence and learning to connect and brand and do it in a way that I believe in and feel comfortable with. And as I can say, being in business, I have stayed away from a lot of the fitness industry way of doing things, which seems counterintuitive, but it's really worked. Because of my belief system and what fitness should look like, so I can't start doing some of the practices and whatnot because they have, the masterminds in fitness and whatnot. And what I see a lot, and I'm sure you see it in these people who are selling these services, is, especially in fitness, is that I don't really know if they've made their money actually in fitness or they just make money telling you how to make money in fitness. Like, I was like, what's your actual experience? But with you, especially, I see what you do. I'm like, Amy's been, you've been there, you've done that. And what you're teaching and is based on what you've learned, what you've done, and it's worked.
Well,
I'm just like, I'm not sure about that.
I love that. Certainly I love working with you, love continuing to work with you in the collab. It is that community building that is unique about your business model. And when deciding to take it online is such a powerful move.
Yeah. And like I said to you, I know I'm not a nonprofit, but I, just felt that your style, your leadership, your knowledge is what, because we're trying to build an online community.
Well, in return, exactly. And community being the key, that online community. And in working together, Leslie, right, we end up finding out that the journeys we take our clients through are so similar. It really is this, as you're kind of sorting through all of it, as you're deciding on what your goals are, it gets murky in the middle as you're building, the blocks that are going to lead to a successful community and successful results for your community. In the nonprofit world, that's certainly true. As you're building your database, as you're building your visibility and your presence, it can get pretty murky. And I love the analogies you bring in with how important it is to stay grounded in the journey so that people can rally around you, that your tribe can find you and stay engaged. How do you help your clients? How do you see the parallel between your own community building leadership and what you work your clients through and the decisions they're making for their own wellness?
It's all about when we work with our clients, it's really talking about a process, a plan, and it's not based on next week. When people come to us and really want to make some lifestyle changes, behavior changes, I'm honest, and I'll be like, you need to really think about a 90-day commitment at a minimum. And 6 months would be ideal. But people, and I think in business, in the nonprofit, we're always looking at like the short term. I gotta do. And if I'm not doing this, I'm not progressing. And that's just not the truth. And like what you have talked about all the time is it's not sustainable. And so when we do short term, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, let's do this. But it doesn't, it comes down to learning how to pick a process.
Yeah.
And then know mentally that that's going to be uncomfortable. And that's where my yoga and my mindfulness, like learning how to begin to navigate that mentally, because it doesn't feel good. I don't care if it's in an eating plan, a fitness plan, business, if whatever you're doing, when it's being new and different, it does not at first feel good. It's uncomfortable.
We've got a viewer that's using the term trust, and I can't see who it is.
Okay. I can't see any comments.
I'll be sure to share with you. Okay. But if you hit the button above, I'll know who it is. But yeah, trust. That is it, right? It's trusting the process.
There I see it. Sorry.
Oh, can you see it? Oh, good. Leslie and I in technology. It's a party.
Trust. Yeah, you have to learn. At Be Well, we had a whiteboard above the desk until just this past year when Chris Koski remodeled the lobby and everything. And on it, and it was just poorly, it said, trust the process.
Trust the process. Yeah. It's the framework. That process is your framework. And so the framework that you allow your students to follow in their journey, and that they trust the decisions they've made and they trust themselves to stay on track or get back on track. It is true in the Magnify Your Mission system. It's simply the framework that you're learning to navigate all the different opportunities and decisions and choices that are coming at you. Mm-hmm. And as leaders of your life or leaders of an organization, that chaos is where the creativity comes from, right? That's where creation comes from. So it's not about eliminating the chaos, but it is about giving yourself like the toolbox, or the framework is the phrase, I guess, process. So you know how to decipher the hot opportunities and the things that are deserving of your energy, because it can keep peeling away, and then all of a sudden you're left with a really empty bucket.
Right. And I think if you realize that you are following a process, and it may be one that you always have done and it works, we'll be confident in that. I know you and I discussed a while back that we're surrounded by a lot of amazing people, but for some reason we doubt ourselves, our knowledge base, our experience. And I think sometimes when you're working towards a plan, a goal, you know, be it fundraising, donors, whatever, it's uncomfortable and there's always that unknown. And that's when doubt and scarcity mindset, all of that kind of jumps in. Mm-hmm. And you have to just, you know, get quiet and be like, I'm going to trust. This is what I'm doing. This is the plan. And we just keep moving and kind of getting quiet and secure in that.
Yeah.
Kind of breathe, not to sound like whatever, but you kind of got to breathe. This is what we're doing.
Yeah. You have to have tea with it. That's what my girlfriend used to say, is you have to have tea with it. When it gets uncomfortable, it's often your intuition. It's often something about your awareness that's letting you know something. But this decision, and I know you have some really big goals of transforming the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. I mean, this isn't just helping a handful of clients.
Right.
The vision you have for how we approach, and I know you tie your fitness very closely to medical diagnoses of diabetes or fatty liver disease. So it is really getting in the heads of doctors and insurance companies and saying referrals to Be Well Now should be a normal step in the wellness goal. That's big stuff, right? We've got clients in the CoLab, our colleagues in the CoLab, the nonprofit CoLab, that are, curing rare disease, changing, transforming communities to be autism friendly and inclusive. I mean, we're talking big goals. Mm-hmm. And there's no way you're going to know every step of the process. I mean, there's just no way.
And that doesn't mean that the process may change. Like and I think working with you with Magnify Your Mission, that's when I kind of was looking at certain things and I'm like, oh, I need to step back. I have some more work to do to move forward in this process. Because it really, you may have skills you need to develop, habits, behavior, all of that. Things may just come, up and you're like, okay, maybe we have to pivot, or, that doesn't mean what you were doing was wrong. It just happens. And it's part of the process, I think.
Well, would you describe it this way, Leslie? I know I feel in growing the capacity of my business and organizations, you move through the process, and then there's a cycle of kind of moving through it again and going deeper with the steps or improving upon the process, so that there becomes kind of a steady predictability to it, even though you're constantly slightly uncomfortable because you're learning, you're growing, you're knowing how to do things better. So you're doing fundraising, or you're doing you're doing a launch of a program or a fundraiser, and you start to collect and grow your database, and you have 3 emails that go out, and you have a system that brings people along. But the next year when you go to do it, you actually get to automate it and improve it even more. And the work that you put into your fitness journey or your business journey pays off, because when it gets easier every time, you improve things every time. Do you see that as part of the cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you become, part of that is you only have the ability to absorb and learn or something so much at a time. So, but once you learn and master that, the next time through, something else will be so obvious. Like, oh, we could automate it this way better. We can do whatever, because you already have, once you start laying the foundation of understanding, knowledge, and skills, then you just keep building on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I would make the claim in my fitness journey too. It's like I could be doing this move for 6 months and then all of a sudden it clicks in, like, that's the stretch. That's the muscle we've been trying to get.
There it is. Yeah.
But you keep working at it as you improve, because that's really the journey, is the improvement. It's the improving.
And I think one thing that I have, especially with like behavior change and health, which is what I focus on, let's start to find some enjoyment in the process too. It may be uncomfortable. It may be awkward and whatever, but there can be some real, I have like a really dark sense of humor. So I just find all the, I use that to my advantage in the process. I had a Facebook memory from when I was marathon training, and I can't even explain this, but I was in this run club in Pittsburgh. I didn't understand the directions, and my running partner and I we ran the wrong way and accidentally ran up Troy Hill.
Oh my gosh.
And people followed us. Troy Hill didn't know where we were in the middle of a training run. We then had to tell people who followed us that it was wrong and you just ran Troy Hill. Now, some people would go home from that and be like, I can't believe I did that. But I thought it was the funniest thing ever. I'm like, who in their right mind? And that's one of my fondest memories is like, yeah, remember that time we accidentally ran up and people followed us because they had no idea, where they couldn't understand the directions either.
Yeah.
So
it's celebrating those power steps, right?
Yeah, finding some of the things that are just funny, or, oh, wow, like taking the time to see the individual steps and observe and see the small progress, the small things that are happening.
Quantum leaps feel like quantum leaps, but the fact is they're rooted in a lot of small steps that have been happening that have not felt very monumental along the way. But if you can really stop to appreciate them and celebrate them as you go, you'll see that they are the meaningful steps.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny. It's just like when people look at someone and they say they were an overnight success, and the person's like,
it was an overnight.
Well, you didn't see me when,
Yeah.
And that's just the way, but I think you can find some enjoyment, maybe enjoyment. I don't know. That might be.
Well, I will say
the right word, but I think it is to find the lessons in it, because there are, that's why you make progress, because you're learning something.
That's what progress is. Yeah. I mean, I think this is what makes you a community building badass. I think it is about finding joy in the process and having fun with the missteps and the mistakes and the learning and the successes along the way. I think in order for people to follow you up Troy Hill,
that was the worst part, because like my running partner and I was like, oh my God, there are people behind us.
I mean, that's leadership, right?
And now we have to like turn around and tell them.
You were a little bit scared.
And I'm like crying, I'm howling.
Okay, Kelly Harper. Hey, girl.
Hey, hi.
Listen, Kelly's been working out, Leslie. I don't know if you've been following Kelly's journey, really starting working out consistently recently, and accredits that to so much of her staying calm, cool, and collected in the chaos of life, which there's a little bit of chaos for Kelly these days. So I see it. I see it in action.
And I have to tell you about what I've seen in fitness behavior with people goes into behavior across the board in their life. So I have like a thing in front of my face. Are you seeing that also?
I see a little bit of light in your glasses.
Oh, but you can still see me?
I see you perfectly.
Okay, because I'm getting something. I'm just going to ignore it. Technology when it's me.
So Kelly's saying I keep showing up, and from time to time I'm like, oh wow, how strong I've gotten, or dang, I'm so much more flexible now. Yeah, you see those breakthroughs, even though maybe you're not like, I am so psyched to work out in 5 minutes from now.
Right. Yeah. And
where are my damn shoes?
But yeah, but you keep showing up, and that's what you have to do. And sometimes, it feels crappy. You're not in the mood, but that's usually when, it's most important.
Yeah, that's it's often when you're on the verge of a breakthrough, right? Again, in comparing it to leadership, I should be comparing it to my fitness journey, but really I'm going to go. It's often when that rub is there or my insecurities are high. It's often because I'm on the verge of a breakthrough, and fear can kick in. And so it is important to show up in those times more than ever, to push through, to do that live, to do that workout, to call that funder, to go out on a limb and be vulnerable with your community. Mm-hmm. I think you teach so much by demonstrating that willingness to put yourself out there and encourage other people to do the same. And that's really where the magic happens, is when we go beyond our current comfort zone. Mm-hmm. That progress and having that process to lean back into, to trust that you're not winging it, even though it feels like it sometimes.
And that's your brain. That's your mind. All that, because it just doesn't like it. It wants to feel comfortable. It wants to feel soothed. And when we're doing things that are goal-oriented and work, the brain doesn't often, it talks, and it can really start to get in the way if you let it. You have to kind of be like, oh wow, I need to just quiet down this, or that's even just telling yourself, that's not true.
Yeah.
My thinking. Or even you might have to start where you have to begin to notice that these intrusive thoughts, or even some people don't even realize they're happening, because it's just they just happen. And instead of saying, oh, I don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You can, not everything you think or feel is reality. We think it is, but it's when you start to get into yoga, mindfulness, then you start to learn to be like, I need to.
Not everything we think and feel is reality. Mm-mm. Wow. Including all the assumptions we have of what's going to happen or what's not going to happen, or
catastrophize, like how many times have you start this thinking and going down this path, it's never, if everything that we catastrophized about ever happened, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
But at the moment we keep going down that rabbit hole, it feels real.
It feels real.
It feels real.
And our mind almost starts to tell us, like, it has to be hard. This is going to be painful. This is going to be tough. There are going to be obstacles. It's going to be devastating. We go from one extreme even deeper down the rabbit hole.
Right.
And I'll tell you, some of my greatest successes came from not knowing what was coming next, because I'll say my naivete served me well, because if I really, had done all the what ifs, or had I really not known every single thing I should have known before I even started this journey, I would never have started in the first place. And I think it's really important that that plan or that process that you lean back on gives you the path for the next step and links that next step to that big vision without assuming your exact path in getting there. That allows for the creativity and the spontaneity and the changes that need to happen. It's not that your plan or your process is a strict linear path. Forward linear guy.
We laugh and we laugh.
Forward, never straight, as I like to say.
Right. It's like the cha-cha slide. 2 steps to the right, 2 steps to the left. Cha-cha,
Oh my gosh, Leslie. Why I knew I would be in tears laughing because that's how our conversations go. But the cha-cha slide of business, this is good.
Because, first of all, you may have a very well thought out plan, but then everybody else in your life is going to have, life shows up. Your board shows up, your volunteer, everybody. So then there's maneuvering there. It's never clear cut linear.
And the confidence that roots into that plan is when I've had a coach before send me a cartoon, and it was during a week. I was the CEO of a national trade association at the time, and it was one of those weeks where like one more bad thing couldn't have gone down. Like just everything was falling apart. And a few times in my life at that stage, especially, where I didn't feel the true the falsehood that I could somehow scurry to control it all. Right. I was still in the, well, we can just keep fixing all of this stuff. And instead, really for the first time, giving my permission to say, no, we've done the work. We've had the plan. We've worked the plan. We've built the relationships, and stuff is falling apart. And to just sit with it and trust that it's going to move through in a way that's most likely beneficial. And in my life has always turned out to be beneficial. When the stuff is falling apart at the worst, ends up being the cusp of a quantum leap, which is going to get me to my ultimate goal faster. But that disruption, if we can ride that disruption up, or as Kelly said, I keep showing up. I keep showing up through the disruption and root into the work and the confidence in the work that we've been doing. Let it fall apart, because the people who are really rooted into the plan and confident in their integrity will emerge. Will emerge on top. It's that competitive advantage that will serve us.
Oh yeah, and I was listening. I love to listen to some, like business podcasts and whatnot. And the one that I forget who it was, but talking about doing things every day. But as far as getting, we think it's not tit for tat or whatever. Like you think, well, I do this, then this should come in and happen, and it doesn't. But you do it every day, and then a week from now, a month from now, all of a sudden, all those steps that you did consistently, it works out.
Yeah.
As far as donors or clients, you do ads or whatever. You want to hear from them tomorrow. Well, they're not ready to hear from you tomorrow.
That's right.
They're in 6 weeks from now, a month, or when it's top of their mind, all of a sudden there they are. But you have to keep laying the groundwork.
Yeah, and laying the groundwork is where the community building gets fun, right? That's the art of bringing people in your universe and cultivating them over time, so that when they're ready, not about you, but when they're ready. I've noticed this.
I was ready, 3 years ago. But
community building is about bringing the people along with you. It's not about you, right? It's about the group vibe. It's about bringing people forward. I've noticed this in closing big deals and fundraising. There's a lot of work and in cultivating and bringing people along. And I was closing, $50,000, $100,000 deals with major manufacturers to support a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And it would happen where it would be months of bringing folks along at times, months. I mean, again, it doesn't have to be hard, but this is not overnight success. And no doubt within a 48-hour period, multiple deals would come in and close at the same time. Mm-hmm. There's no way that was repeatedly random. It was an energetic, ultimately it was something I was putting out there that helped close the deal, but it was also working on their timeline and in their comfort zone of what made sense and what supported them in their decision-making process. So trusting that plan, showing up, doing the integrity, and realize the execution or bringing it all together isn't just up to you or your nonprofit or your organization. It's up to the community you set for people to get involved with and make that shared reality happen. Just like I see at Be Well all the time, people coming together to support one another. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's you would be able to explain this better, but when we think of community, we often think everybody. But I know that for myself with Be Well Now and years ago creating Be Well Nation, I started to be real specific at who I was targeting. And honestly, that even grew a more well-rounded community in a way. Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to reach everyone, targeting who I thought would be, like the ideal client or whatever, the ideal donor. But then it brought a lot of other people into the mix too, who I didn't think would.
Yeah.
Where instead of being whereas if you think everyone's invited, you would think everyone would come, but everybody kind of ignores you then.
Yeah.
But when you get real specific, you get that. But then I found an overflow of maybe who I didn't think was our target, but they thought they were.
What you were saying resonated, right? They were pulled in on ultimately your values, is usually what connects our communities, right? It's the values that we share. It's not even the specific outcome. I'll talk to nonprofits a lot, or I know you talk to your community a lot. We're working in the field of fitness, or we're working in the field of education, but this is about quality of life. This is about equity. This is about social justice. This is about bigger than our program or our problems. And if you can tie your message to that higher level values, your universe expands to that second layer of folks, right? That not only care about just their immediate fitness journey, but they also care about being part of a bigger community, a long-term support community to help them maintain their fitness, not just achieve their initial goal.
Right.
That's those values are really critical to get clear on, and in your business and in your community. I was going to put a blog together, and I haven't gotten to it. I'm not for everybody, and either are you.
Right.
So if you're still playing that game, and nonprofits are notorious because we're community builders, we have to be for everybody. Mm-hmm. We're absolutely not for everybody. Right. And if you're not hearing about how you're not for everybody, you're not speaking up strongly enough about the things you are for. Mm-hmm. So it's not about being agitated unnecessarily or controversial, shooting from the hip, but it is about being disruptive. So back to your word, Leslie, being disruptive is what sets you apart. It's about the change you want to make. You're change makers. That's what we do as community builders. We're change makers. You do not create change without bucking a system, without ruffling feathers, without challenging some assumptions.
And if you want that change, people have often said, I can't believe how positive the community at BUL is. And I just would point out and say, I'd say, well, we don't feed the negative.
That's it.
You can't feed it. And that starts from the leadership. You feed in the community what you want. You don't feed it what you don't want.
Yeah.
And I can remember people coming in and, with the diet talk, and I'd be like, we are not going to give you diet plans. We're not going to sell you the, so, and just having or ignore certain behavior.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't positive for the community. And it's funny because people will either change their behavior or they weed themselves out. It's trust the people are like, well, and I'm like, if they don't get fed here, they're either going to change because they'll want what we have or they'll move on.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And that's okay because we're not for it.
I think with some donor, in that situation, it's this, it's
same thing.
Yeah. You have to be, as in leadership, you have to be very precise in what you are going to feed.
What you're to feed, what you're going to tolerate.
I don't know what you're going to allow, but I always say, well, we just don't feed that here.
Yeah. It's so important. And for your tribe to trust you, for your community of donors, for your community of clients, for them to trust you, they have to see you be clear on those boundaries and honor those boundaries on their behalf, right? Oh, yeah. On their behalf, so they can trust and know what the rules of engagement are. So here's the secret sauce is, so often nonprofit leaders think, okay, well, our focus is on our clients and those we serve, right? That's the mission. And we raise money to do this where we focus. But the fact is your tribe is all of it. It's as Kelly would say, it's the answer to who cares. And if you care, you're in, right? You're in the community, you're in the family. And I think where in the Magnify Your Mission system, where I spend most time with clients is really understanding the nuts and bolts of the community building responsibility we have. Because we're advocates and we're change makers. So it's not just taking the money and doing the service. It really isn't. It's about bringing the people together who want to see that change. We're providing the service on a path to creating a big change, right? And, I think developing those community building muscles, that's good. That's a good analogy. Did you get that? Muscles. I think I love turning nonprofit leaders that awareness on for them, that their responsibility is to keep their donors in community along with the people they're serving, right? The people that are benefiting from a variety of different standpoints together, because equally we care about creating that big change, and we can't afford to lose any of our army, right? We need all the warriors. So that community building is such an art and such a science at the same time.
Yeah, there's a good question about how on the chat on how do you find people that are in your tribe?
How do I not see that?
And from my point of view, I kind of found, I think, my tribe by finding where I didn't belong in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, ooh, and I just, I knew where, I think I know with creating Be Well 13 years ago, because I already knew where I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
So I started out really small, my first class, like I wasn't even on Facebook or anything. I had flyers that I don't even know I don't even know how.
You don't even know how you got your first few clients.
Back in the Stone Age, but fine, I knew based on like my values, my mental, emotional health, where and who I didn't want to be around or that.
Yeah.
And then it didn't just happen. I don't.
Sending out, it feels like it just happened, but really it was a series of decisions you made that kept drawing your tribe in. One way, how you find your tribe is I would add onto that, Leslie, like as the community builder, it's sending out those signals, right? Whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, you're sending out signals. So your people, you let your freak flag fly. That's how
yeah. And I'm a bizarre combination of extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
So like, I'll see you at Giant Eagle. I'll talk to you. I don't know you, but
you'll come right on over.
Yeah.
And it's taking that face-to-face relationship building. I was doing the same thing when I ran for office. Leslie, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this. I knocked something like 8,000 doors connecting my tribe together, right? To build my database so I could stay in touch and remind them to vote and answer their questions. The key is in finding your tribe is how do you do that online and digitally? Because that is the future of marketing. It is the future of fundraising.
What did we learn? Community cocooning?
Cocooning. Yeah, we talked about this a few weeks ago. What is that about? Because that was remind me, that was a book or
Faith Popcorn. Which, if you were a marketing person back in the 90s, but she's still around doing a lot of work. And she is a think tank that they create the trends. And it is all about what they like community cocooning online, where you find and cocoon in, now we have the Facebook groups and these things, and that's where we're at now. And
that's how we're coming together. It used to be coffee clatches.
Yeah, like I was in mops and all kinds of stuff,
And now community builders online and nonprofit leaders, I'll make a plug for, have got to be on the front lines of learning how to do this. For their people. There's 1.5 million nonprofits in the United States alone. You are not the only one out there. We have to find a way to stand out, to stand apart, and to build confidence with our tribe. And community cocooning is the future.
Yeah.
And I think Be Well does a really nice job with that whole notion of how you make people feel comfortable in person. How do you translate that to do that in a Facebook group?
Well, we had a boot camp in it when the pandemic struck. We went from Be Well Nation in studio overnight when everything was closed down. We were up and running and not knowing what, Chris Koski and other people, Zoom is so part of our life. I didn't even know what it was until March of 2020 or whatever. But we were up online 5:30 a.m. the next day teaching classes. And it was talk about a messy process with sound, it was all over the place. But we kept that community and we took them right in online. I mean, we have 87-year-olds doing online classes still because they found that it was better for them to be doing our active ager classes just at home. So now that we're even back in, they're still online with us.
And you're getting 20 some people in a class, which is just such a combined class, which is such a large number. It is that cocooning, right? And you took a community who was in crisis of feeling isolated and separated. And overnight you brought them together and kept
we
this
did it
during
over,
a really
and
difficult
it wasn't about waiting for it to look good or be right. It was like, I think that night Chris Koski was handing out hand weights, resistance bands to people, because we knew we were going to be closed down at midnight. Here, take some hand weights. Here, take a resistance band. You can work out with us at home.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know.
That's what we saw communities doing. And it's it kept us sane, right? It kept us connected.
And I think, you know, the beauty is if you can find a way to have the best of both worlds sometimes, like online, but also, you know, in the real world.
Yeah.
Somehow too.
Yeah. No, I think there's certainly always going to be a need for that human infrastructure and that in person. We see a question, Suzanne, this might be you. Small group of dying children. The who cares is limited. How do we build a network, or what do the people in the group get? Thank you for the question. Yeah, Suzanne, let me know if that is Suzanne. It's a good question and something we need to look at, but that is really the work and the process, is taking the time to say who else is interested in this health equity issue, because it is a health equity issue. Who gets the care, who gets the attention, who gets the research, who gets the access. And in that sense, it can be part of a bigger conversation. But we need to really look at that community and then find ways to message so that they can find us. That's what's really important. As we move away from searching and finding them, we move away from the door knocking. I mean, even when I graduated from college, my first job out of college, I was a community organizer knocking doors for the Sierra Club, for an environmental group. And going to find your tribe is one thing, but the beauty of online community building or cocooning is you can learn to send out your signal, your value messaging, your magnetic messaging that will help your tribe find you. And then you provide the space for them to convene and to get to know and to learn more. And you move them along a relationship trajectory, a relationship path, the thing we know how to do in person, right? I know that as I started in my nonprofit career, I led a charge of starting a program at an alternative school, the first autism program there, an education program for children with autism at Glade Run Lutheran Services at St. Stephen's. And I got to hire some of the best experts and learn from them and facilitate the process. It's the, where was I going with that? It's the who cares understanding about, it's not just those families that are in the classroom who cares. You have to go broader to figure out, how do we send out that message? How do we get them to get involved and stay involved to learn more and build relationships? So that digital cocooning, that digital community building is so vital, Amber, and helping to really serve these children that you're fighting for. Thank you for letting me know your name. I appreciate it.
And I think as far as with Amber, with who cares, like thinking beyond the scarcity mindset. And it's not just that you have a network of people who may be donating money, but it shows that, what am I trying to go? It brings awareness and people get momentum behind what you do. Not only do they donate to your organization, then they start, let's start knocking on doors and getting the research money. The money's out there.
The money's there.
But it needs to show that there's, people say, hey, this is important.
Yeah.
And funnel, I'm not phrasing that the way.
Leslie, I wonder if it's the power of the movement, because yes, we're running a nonprofit or we're running a community-based business, but we're really change makers. We're driving a movement. And so when you can balance the immediate need of how you're helping your community with bringing people along that may not be donating today, but who are interested in following the journey with you, the power of those numbers of people cheering you on matters, right? And so when you map out in your process and then magnify your mission, we move through your strategic alliances, right? When you map out who we can connect the dots for, who else cares, you might find that the money is coming from government, but you need the power of the people behind you to get their attention. So you've got to kind of think about why they care. But as leaders, it can often feel like nobody cares, right? Nobody's leaning in. Our issue isn't important enough. But the money is out there. Our job as leaders is to stay calm, to stay confident, and to stay clear in continuing to find the path to get there. And it can feel challenging, but your messaging is a really powerful piece of bringing those people to you. And those group of dying children that you're supporting, that's part of a bigger picture. I don't know what that bigger picture is, but whether it's a rare disease or whether it's a demographic that's getting overlooked or ignored, we need to dig in there and do the strategic planning mapping to figure that out, and then get in front of them with a strong message to bring them into our community. And from there, the relationship can grow, but only if they're in your community, right? If they're out in the universe, loosey-goosey, we can't really move to a deeper place with that relationship. It becomes less meaningful. So having that safe space that Be Well provides, whether it's an online Facebook group, your database is an important part of that. So we go through the nuts and bolts of that digital community building, which I think I have to move toward community cocooning, because it's such a good phrase. Because the cocoon, like, you just feel better in a cocoon.
It's an identity too. If you look at really successful groups with donor, like those donors identify as part of that group, part of the vision. I know at Be Well, people, they identify themselves as a part of, they don't go to Be Well, they are Be Well Nation.
Yeah.
And I think with donor, it's not just donating your time or your money, it's you're a part of our vision. And, it becomes an identity. This is who I am. This is part of my values is, taking care of a small group of children who have a rare disease.
There are other people who are into that jam. I mean, there definitely are, whether it might be a different disease, it might be a different age group even. But there are people out there that are focused on taking care of vulnerable and underrepresented populations. Kelly Harper, who of course is our communications queen, she doesn't really let me call her that in public too often, but she really is the queen of communications. And who do you impact not only directly, but also indirectly? Is a really good part of the mapping process. And Kelly works with clients very specifically through this brand messaging strategy in the nonprofit world and through her business, but certainly in the collab. And it's the magic. It's the unsexy parts that really are the building blocks of community building. So when you go to do your special event, or when you go to send that fundraising email, how often do you hear, I sent an email, nobody responded. I mean, it's a little, as big as our hearts are, that is a little bit also very big-headed of us to assume with one, email, with one call to action, people should be cutting through all the other noise and able to focus on us. We have to make it super simple for people who are interested to get involved. And we continue to engage them, not just when we're asking for money, but keeping them, Leslie, as you said, part of our journey, right? That they identify with our success. And we connect them to the big vision, which is making sure that everyone has access to healthcare to prevent preventable loss of life, right? Like, we are living in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. That is a shared value that we should be able to put the resources there. So something to think about, Kelly. Thanks for that input. That who do you help, directly and indirectly really matters. And sometimes you're helping an elected official meet their goals. Sometimes you're helping a bigger nonprofit than you are meet their goals. But it's business, and you have to get in there to figure out who can we help? Who can we help achieve their goals? Who are we like-minded with? Who shares our values? And then we build our tribe around that. And we start with our database. We have a social media strategy, right? And our website. And together that becomes our safe space for our people. So we get into all kinds of that fun science part of it, and the many steps. Leslie, what do you think about, Kelly's got some more. You're not a Be Well member yet, is the way to, Kelly. That's what you meant to say, but because we can work out together. It'll be perfect. Yeah, it is. It's a tight tribe at Be Well. And well, from Kelly, that's a huge compliment. She can really feel your vibe and your personality. Oh, yeah. It is. It's everything. It's how you come across. And nonprofits think that we're doing this big-hearted, big important work. We don't have to take the time to make it easy for our tribe to engage with us. But we really, as community builders, absolutely have to demonstrate that. And we have to make it as easy for you as possible. So that's the trick, is doing it in a straightforward way.
And yeah, and indirect, for what we do indirectly, so many levels, because, you impact one person, but indirectly you're impacting their family also.
Yeah.
If, and I think we need to think about that in larger terms in other organizations. When I look at that, I know that if I can work with behavior change and get, and this is something that I've always been passionate about, I work with women to trust their needs in eating and nourishing their body, not food, to not body shame or weigh yourself and base your self-worth on a number. I know if that I have that direct impact on someone, that changes behavior at home. And that's going to have an indirect impact on kids and everyone else if they're not then getting the message.
That ripple effect. Like,
yeah. And so it's the same in everything, you think, and then how that comes full circle. After 30 years in fitness, I can tell you it comes full circle.
It's creating a movement, right? It's building a movement. It's not, and nonprofits and business owners can get so overwhelmed with the day-to-day, right? And just making it through. But the fact is, you're creating big change out in the world. You're doing it through this service or this program right now, but the impact of that work has such ripple effect. And when you can tap into that bigger picture, you tend to find new layers to your tribe. That's where they live. Leslie, what else do you have to share with us today on your tips to power steps to success?
I think, gosh, we've covered so much, and I'm just on the ripple effect. If you can let your people feel like being part of that ripple is massively important. because it's that little ripple, little, so making, people feel like you're in the community, but you're important to the community at large, and whatever you contribute or you donate, whatever is important, it matters. I think people want it to matter.
And that's not about your mission, technically. That's about them mattering. And I know that this is my unpopular opinion, right? We all talk about, we can't be donor centric. It has to be about the mission. The fact is, your donors are a part of the mission. If they're not your tribe. And if you're treating them as an ATM machine, you're missing the opportunity. They are an important equation in solving that big world change you want to see. And children dying unnecessarily is a pretty big worldwide mission.
Yeah.
It can feel isolated. I work with a client that is working her tail off to solve, to cure a rare disease that affects possibly 100 children globally. That's a daunting sell, right? How do we get people to care about a disease that is devastating but affects a small group of children? Well, we were able to tie it to other research, other diseases, other stories, to moms who are heartbroken to see that a child is suffering when something can be done, that money is the only thing holding back a solution. All of a sudden, that tribe got way bigger than those 100 families. So that's the beauty of community building. You have to define, what do these people care about equally? What are our shared values? And we have to draw people in based on that, sharing our work along the way. Knowing what that work is so we can get grounded in it when things get murky and chaotic, when things get exciting like they are now. The fact is, money is moving out there, and there are a lot of opportunities. And I think that is leading to some exhaustion, because we went from being totally cocooning to being out there and trying to prioritize the best opportunities. So,
you know what I have to say about that?
Yeah.
When it's exciting and there's so much available, pick something, pick a process, pick a plan, and do it. Because sometimes it's when there's a lot of availability where you can get stuck in what's right. I need to do the right thing. And then you do nothing. I see that with health and fitness all the time, because people are bombarded with this and this and this, and there's so much that they never pick it. It might be wrong. It might be the wrong, but it's, you're going to learn, or, but I see oftentimes when there's a lot of available opportunities, the fear then becomes picking the right one.
Yeah.
Then stumbling and not picking anything and missing the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Choice overwhelm.
Yeah. But you eventually, there's a lot of opportunity now. You have to to take an opportunity, whatever choice. Yeah. And I see oftentimes, a lot of missed opportunity because I'm more concerned about the perfect one versus doing something,
doing something different, more what's that?
The importance of showing up.
Yeah. And here's the thing, more of the same isn't gonna get exponentially more results, right? You have to make an adjustment. And so when you see people not getting the help they need, or not taking the steps, or trying the new thing, and we'll just do more events, we'll just do more email, something has to change in the equation for different results to start coming in. And so we need to diagnose that, right? Just like in fitness, we have to get in there and figure out, what are the changes that are going to lead to the next set of changes, which are going to build the momentum, the movement. I am so grateful for you, Leslie, and to be able to share community with you quite physically. We're here in Western Pennsylvania together.
Yes.
But certainly digitally and in the nonprofit collab world as well.
Absolutely. It's been, well, it was when I met you, I just knew like, this is one of my people.
This is how you find your tribe.
Yeah. And I don't even remember how exactly we even met.
Listen, I think it was online, and then you got involved in my campaign.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You worked some polls, girl. You did the work when I ran for political office, and be well. I don't know. We found each other though.
We did, yeah.
We definitely gravitated toward each other, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything you do for our community.
Thank you for what you do and having this platform open tonight.
Well, and I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation. You and I are in the middle of brainstorming some different ways we can keep giving people support on this issue. Mm-hmm. And hey, Kel, thanks for being here. We hope you guys have a great night, and stay tuned for some more good content with Leslie as we dig deep into changing the world.
Yay!
Good night.